The parashiot we just read, we find an advice on how a person can merit refuah. It says in the pasuk that if you listen to the voice of Hashem and do what is proper in His eye and will listen closely to His commandments, then Hashem says, all the sicknesses that I visited upon Egypt, I will not visit upon you, for Hashem will heal you. Rabbi Yitzchak of Skver said that this is a difficult remedy because one must first keep the entire Torah and then he attains a refuah. In Parashat Yitro we learned that when the nation received the Torah, everyone was healed, but that is also a difficult prescription for a refuah because it entails the acceptance of the yoke of the entire Torah. But in Parashat Mishpatim, an easier method is taught. It says, all a person has to do is to keep Shabbat, v'rapo yirapeh, and he will have a refuah. The Shem Shmuel writes in the name of his father, the Avnei Nezer, that even if someone has an ill person in his home, chas v'shalom, if he can refrain from complaining and from thinking about his troubles on Shabbat, the sick person will certainly be healed. This is based on the Gemara. When one visits the sick on Shabbat, he says, Shabbat hi milizok u'refuah krova lavo. Shabbat we don't shout, and the refuah is quick in coming. And Rashi explains over here, the merit of the Shabbat can bring you compassion if you honor Shabbat by refraining from feeling the tsar, the troubles, on this day. The Gemara discusses an ill person. However, the same applies to all kinds of troubles and problems. If one doesn't have tsar on Shabbat, the tsar will disappear. The Eliyahu Rabbah says that this is a midah keneged midah. On Shabbat, one is supposed to feel ki'ilu kol malachtecha asuyam, as if he has nothing to take care of and everything is perfect in his life. When one thinks that way on Shabbat, it becomes so, and Hashem will remove all the troubles, all the tsar from him. The Matok Midvash writes, we saw with our own eyes people who had a tzara before Shabbat, and on Shabbat they forgot about the tzara entirely and were happy with Shabbat. They didn't have any distress or any worries on Shabbat because of these troubles, and they merited to be saved from their troubles in a miraculous way. In his later years, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef Herman came to live in Eretz Yisrael with his family. He traveled by ship with all his possessions. They docked in Haifa. It was close to Shabbat, and he couldn't take any bags with him. The officers told him, if you leave your luggage here, everything will be taken away. You won't have anything. Even though Rabbi Yaakov Yosef was well aware of the loss he would endure by leaving his belongings without supervision, he was very happy on Shabbat, and he didn't think about it at all. Even after Shabbat was over, they didn't rush to the port on the earliest Zman of Motzei Shabbat. Instead, they waited for the Zman of Rabbeinu Tam like they usually do, and then they went to the port. Over there, they found the guard standing near their bags. He told them, they told me to stand here, and so everything was there, nothing was missing, because when you are happy on Shabbat, all your troubles will go away. The Menorat HaMeor tells a story of a woman who had 2 children who fell into a deep pit on Shabbat. She waited until her husband came home from the Bet HaKnesset. When he came, they ate and they drank, and when they finished the meal, she said, if you want, I'll tell you something. So her husband said, go ahead. She said, for 10 years I was guarding 2 gold crowns. Now the owner are asking for the crowns back. What should I do? The husband said, of course, return them. She said to him, your 2 sons fell into a pit and passed away. Now you need to honor Hashem and don't be mechalel Shabbat. She meant don't be sad on Shabbat. They weren't sad that Shabbat, but when it turned dark, they went right away to the pit to take the children out and take care of their bodies. Lo and behold, their children were alive and well. And because they worked on not having the tsar, the distress on Shabbat, they merited this miracle. Unbelievable story. Shevet HaKahasi writes that Rebbe Yisachar Dov of Belz didn't put on new shoes on Shabbat. He first wore them on the weekdays so that they would be broken into a little before Shabbat. He didn't want to feel that pinch that comes with wearing the new shoes on Shabbat. We should also seek to avoid any feeling of distress on Shabbat. Shabbat is Yom Simchatchem, a day of joy. And when we're happy on Shabbat, the tzarot will never return.